at the undercover policing inquiry. David Veness has just opened his evidence at the undercover policing inquiry by making an apology, both aligning himself by the one given by the commissioner, the current commissioner, echoing comments made by Paul Condon and John Grieve last week, also apologising on a personal level for some failings on his behalf of not properly implementing RIPA. He then made some comments about his lack of memory, which he claims had been severely impeded by the fact that he had gone on to a very high-ranking security role with the UN, which had been highly stressful and had caused a lack of memory of events from before that 5-year period. I'm joined by Kate Wilson of Police Spies Out of Lives. After he told us he couldn't remember, he wouldn't be able to remember anything. I think for the most part, most of his answers seem to be, I don't recall, during his questioning. But there were some things that came out, particularly in relation to RIPA, the Regulatory Investigative Powers Act, which came in on his watch, which he claimed he was very involved in the bringing in of, which he's apologised for not implementing properly, but certainly came up in terms of what he did and didn't do.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly wanted to give a very long spiel about his role at whatever it was he was doing. To be honest, I kind of phased out at that point.
He did a very bad job, famously. Lots of people ended up dead.
Well, yeah, he said something about there being a terrorist attack on the UN, and I wasn't actually clear whether he had himself had received a head injury during that, and that was the issue, or it was something else. But anyway, he clearly wanted people to remember him for that and not for what he did with the SDS. The apology that he delivered this morning about the failure to properly implement RIPA is actually quite massive. The Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act came in with the Human Rights Act, and it was the mechanism that makes surveillance operations of any kind across the board lawful. By saying that RIPA was not correctly implemented, he's basically saying that the SDS operations after 2000 were unlawful under the Human Rights Act.
Yeah, which is very significant.
It's incredibly significant. And I mean, we're going to be hearing tomorrow from Janet Williams. Janet Williams has very specifically said, may not be able to say that. I'm going to stop myself. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yes, there's plenty to come.
Watch this space. But yeah, it's massive. I mean, for him to have apologised for not correctly implementing RIPA, and he's kind of framing it as it was a missed opportunity. We could have done more. Bullshit. You know, RIPA was the statute that, you know, you're one side of RIPA, what you're doing is lawful, you're the other side of RIPA, and what you are doing is unlawful. So, and, you know, the judge is aware of that, the barristers are aware of that. So what he's actually said, his apology around RIPA, is much more significant than he's making it sound. He's making it sound like, yeah, well, we could have done more, and I'm really sorry. That's not what this is about. This is really quite a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. The rest of his answers to questions have been around his lack of memory, but also when it's put to him that he should have known, he should have realised, he should have acted, and numerous times. What he's falling back on is if he had been clever enough to absorb properly and realise the significance of.
Yeah, if I'd made that connection at the time, if I'd read that properly, if I'd been sharp enough mentally. I mean, basically, he is saying that, you know, and he was very high up. I don't actually know what AXO stands for, but it's it's
Assistant Commissioner Specialist Operations. Essentially, it's the one rung below the Chief Commissioner. He's part of that very, very tight core team, and he's in charge of all specialist operations, which is Special Branch, counter-terrorism. We're talking about really, really serious stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
and he's basically
enough to get the job as head of security for the UN.
I was too stupid to make the link that when I read we're spying on the Lawrence family and the police were also involved in a public inquiry around the Lawrence family, that maybe there was an issue there. You know, yes, with hindsight, if I'd made the I mean, it's shocking. You know, it's shocking and embarrassing for the police service. And he's not the only one. I mean, it's been quite common.
Yes,
you know, and there's this idea that, you know, well, if I'd known then, and David Barr is very good at saying, well, you say with hindsight, but actually, should this not have been an issue at the time? And his only response is, it should have been, but I was too stupid to figure that out.
And I mean, it should be pointed out that the connections he's claiming he wasn't cognitively aware of are, like you say, it's very basic ones. We're reporting on the Lawrence family. There's an inquiry into the murder of Stephen Lawrence. That connection there should have been an issue. Oh, I wasn't clever enough to realise it. And I mean, I really need to underline, this person, I mean, his role as head of specialist operations for the Met was over a decade, and he walked straight from that job. He finished on the Friday. On the Monday, he was head of security for the United Nations.
Yeah.
You could not get a more high-ranking specialist when it came to these matters, these high-security matters.
Either he is lying.
I think that might be it.
Yeah, put it out there, or there's actually something to be seriously worried about, which is that, these roles are being taken by stupid people. And why are these roles being given to stupid people? I mean, I think, the level of stupidity that would be required would mean that you wouldn't be able to pass a GCSE. I mean, what he's claiming in level of stupidity and inability to absorb information, you wouldn't get a desk job. No, and why he is doing this is because what he doesn't want to say is, yes, we were spying on the Lawrence family and we were doing it because the Metropolitan Police would do anything to protect its image. Yes, we knew that these officers were having relationships, and we didn't consider that important because the ends justified the means. It was completely endemic. It was common. I don't even understand why I'm being asked questions about this. They've all got the memo. Spying on victims of racist murders and their families is wrong. Deceiving members of the public into relationships whilst undercover was wrong, and it was always wrong, and we would never. And so that there's this revisionism, it was really, really evident in the witnesses who've talked about, many witnesses have been asked, well, what was the atmosphere around the Macpherson inquiry? And they all say, well, we were terribly concerned that, there was this murder and it wasn't being investigated. Bullshit. And they were all saying it. I mean, there's very clear, and it's, everybody knows that was not the atmosphere inside the Metropolitan Police before the Lawrence inquiry, the Macpherson inquiry reported back. We also heard just before the end about the relocation of HM26, Christine Green. Now, Christine Green was an undercover officer infiltrating animal rights. She got into a relationship with one of the people that she was spying on. I believe she may still be in that relationship.
I believe so.
She separated from her husband, and she went off to live with her new partner, and her husband lived alone in a smaller accommodation. What we are seeing in the evidence today is that because of a supposed security breach around her
deployment.
Yep, thank you. David Veness actually signed off on the house purchase of the smaller property for her husband, who then moved into that and lived alone. She rented with her activist boyfriend. Again, he's claiming he had no idea about this.
But most significantly, though, he said, if you had known, what would you have done? He said, I would have pondered long and hard about it. And he said, but wouldn't it have been the case that you would have still done the same thing because of operational security? Oh, I wouldn't like to comment. So, he basically admitted that despite the fact that was the case, he was probably in a corner anyway, and they would have to sign off on it because the operational security of the unit was way more important than how one officer had behaved.
And I think, this is something that we saw in Helen's evidence on Friday, is what happened with John Dines, where they all quite clearly knew that he had a relationship with Helen Steele, and they spent 2.5 million on covering that up, moving him to
they spent a lot more. It was a one-off check signed for 2.5 million, probably double that. To him, but probably cost about double that in terms of what he got and what the cost for the unit generally, even more again.
They put dozens of people under surveillance around it. They spied on Helen's entire family. They And
We got a glimpse of what Vanessa is going to say about it, because he said, well, his answer on this question was, I don't remember anything about any I've been informed I signed off on several relocations. I have no memory of any of them.
Yes, and you know, the Christine Green one is quite a big deal, but it pales into insignificance when compared with what they did around John Dines.
I mean, if I ever find myself signing off a £2.5 million check, I think I'd remember.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how he tries to swim out of that one. It's only a short break. We should probably head back in. If anybody's got any questions or comments, please leave them on any of the videos. We will try and answer them in the fullness of time. Bye for now.